Welcome to Brand You,
the ultimate personal branding podcast.
I'm Kaz Grant.
And I'm Toby Lee.
Together, we're here to help demystify personal branding
and to make it accessible and effective for everyone.
Follow along as we guide you through creating your own personal branding journeys.
So, let's get started.
Let's brand you. Hi everybody, welcome back to the Brand You podcast and Happy New Year! We are officially in 2025. Yeah, where has that time gone? I feel like every British person is going to be saying that for this next month. So we are coming to you this week with an episode, special episode, all about how you can make 2025 your best year yet with personal branding. And instead of saving the actionable tip at the end of the podcast, we are actually going to give you 5 actionable tips that you can do throughout. So make sure you grab pen and paper, or if you're not as old as I am, your devices to take some notes. Let's dive in. Tip 1.
So tip 1, let's get clear on our personal brand. So if there's anything that we might have left to chance in 2024, or if you have been following through these podcasts, we've tried to kind of do it in a step-by-step process, haven't we? If there's any part of that you feel you've kind of missed out, whether it might be your actual kind of the aesthetics of your brand, or through to the messaging, or through to where you're communicating with your audience, who your audience is, all this stuff, we kind of need to make some decisions on. So Go back through that. Even if you thought you were quite sure on those things, again, we've talked about kind of evaluating in the past. It's really good to every now and then just go, you know what, this is who I thought my audience was. Let me just double check, because it might have tweaked over time. Your values might have changed. What you're trying to achieve might have changed. So just getting a definitive plan.
Yeah. And you might have gone into 2025 with completely different goals, or some next level goals
some
as well.
Some brainwaves over Christmas dinner.
Yeah, some brainwaves. So actually looking at the goals that you want to set for your life and your business and your world, like, does that align with the personal brand that you've currently created? And again, if not, let's tweak it. Let's change that so that 2025, you're not chucking spaghetti at the wall and hoping something sticks with your content. You are chucking the right things at the wall and everything is sticking.
And it's even just giving it a go, isn't it? So it's kind of like, make some decisions, be confident with them, trial them, because you can always tweak them if later down the road you think, oh, actually, maybe that wasn't right.
Yeah.
But it's better to have a clear idea than just to go into a new year kind of just dabbling.
Yeah. And utilize the technology that we've got available to us now. So we have a wonderful thing called AI now. So go on to something like ChatGPT, type in everything that you know so far, everything you've learned over Christmas and all of your goals for this next year that you've really thought about and really started to process. Put all of that into ChatGPT and then ask it, like, who is my ideal audience? What messaging do I need to share in 2025? Who am I? What are my clear messaging that I need to get out as well that aligns with my goals? And it will create all of this kind of information for you. Not creating the content itself, but it will create the ideas for you. So again, you don't need to think anymore and try and magically make this information appear. We've got AI to utilize it. Right, step 2, 2025 is the year that we leave our excuses behind and we show up consistently. So the next action step that I want to encourage listeners to take is to start planning their content, start planning what they want to do and share with the world. And then also look into maybe some tools that can help with that. So some scheduling tools and things, because we need to plan, we need to have the plan in place for us to stick to it. We need to then have the tools in place that kind of automate some of this for us. So we're not leaving it by chance. We don't have to in 2025 post as we go and just hope that we remember and life isn't too busy that day. We can schedule it in advance, and that's one thing off of our to-do list that day.
Yep, and we know we're going to get busy. We want to get busy. We want to be in a position where we don't have time to be thinking about all these things constantly. So, absolutely scheduling tools, but also factoring in when are you going to do that scheduling? When are you going to set that tool up? Is it going to be once a week for the first hour of the week on a Monday morning, I'm going to get my posts for the following week scheduled. Factor that in, make that a routine, a weekly, bi-weekly diary entry, whatever it needs to be for you. Again, tweak it as you go, but just get something that gets you started. I think it's a real strong point.
Yeah. And look at this as you being visible to the world. This isn't a nice thing to have or a nice thing to do. And wouldn't it be great if I was consistent with content all the time? That'll be all right. But if I get busy with work, that's it. If you get busy with work and you become invisible again for that period, the next lot of work isn't going to come in.
Yes. Yeah.
So this is the reason we need to be consistent. So it's not a nice to do anymore. This is part of your advertising. This is part of your marketing. This is part of sharing you with the world so that people know to come to you. Opportunities aren't going to come if your personal brand's like that. It's going to come when you're being consistent, and then it's not going to come again. Then you're going to think, oh no, and then it's going to go, and then it's not. We want to flatten that out and make it more consistent over the year. So absolutely.
And we want to keep building these connections, don't we? So actionable step number 3 is have a little think about who it is you want to attract. Start working out some sort of strategy. Again, you can use sort of ChatGPT to go, these are the kind of people I want to meet or get in touch with and make connections with. How do I do that? And they might sort of suggest, LinkedIn for these people, Instagram for these people. But be really clear about how you want to communicate with them in an authentic way as well, and start making those connections so that you're constantly growing your audience. You're not just sharing with the same people over and over again. We need to make sure we keep expanding that pool, don't we?
Yeah. And the trust is constantly being built because the relationships are being worked on as well. And, you're constantly kind of communicating with each other as well as just sharing the content. So you're checking in with them, you're offering value with them, you're commenting on some of their posts as well. So then they're going to potentially see your post more often as well. So it's that give and take. Like, you can't just post and ghost and expect everybody to come rushing to your content. You need to give a bit of engagement as well, and a bit of communication to your audience. So keep that flowing. And then again, like, that trust and that connection is going to be formed and built. And then when you need what they have to offer, you'll go to them, or you'll refer them on. When they need what you have to offer, again, they'll connect you with others, they'll refer you on, they'll work with you with different things, they'll collaborate with you. But you've got to build those connections first before all of the things come from it. And you don't necessarily know which ones are going to be the fruitful ones that aren't, or the ones that aren't. So we're not looking at it as I'm only going to comment on the ones that will do business with me or the ones that will come back. And I comment on everybody and connect with everybody, because you don't know who the ones are that are going to turn into something. And potentially, percentage-wise, you might get 80% of people that you are engaging with will never do anything with you. But then the 20%, they'll be the referrers, they'll be the collaborators, they'll be the ones that come and use your services, that access what you have to offer the world. And that will be enough. So just do the 100% connecting, and then those are kind of the rough stats that will come from that. But just do it because you're a nice person and you want to connect with people as well. Don't kind of go in with the agenda. It's like networking, isn't it, in person now? I think we've all learned in person, we don't go into that room to sell to everybody, because people will stop speaking to you eventually. They'll be put off of you. They'll never buy what you have to offer. You just go in to make friends, to connect, to get to understand people more. Ask your audience questions, like, get to know them. Like we do with this podcast, don't we? We say, go on to the LinkedIn community group, ask your question. We want to make this as value-led as possible. And we want to give our audience as much value as we can. We don't know everything that they need. So we need our audience to tell us some things. We ask questions. So get to know your audience a bit more.
And it's easy to start that communication, isn't it? So if you ask a question when you send, say, a LinkedIn invite, you're prompting some sort of response. They can't just accept or decline and ignore it. There's that incentive to start talking straight away. But also factoring in that time to make those connections as well. Don't let that be something that I haven't for a couple of weeks because I haven't had the time. Again, whilst we're waiting for the kettle to boil, you could quite easily send off a few connection requests or a few follows on Instagram or a few messages here and there.
Yeah, and personalise it. I really, really liked. So somebody messaged. I had a few messages the other week, and I was going through them all, and it was pretty generic and pretty boring, to be honest. It was. It was really like, how are you?
Yeah.
How are you? I'm like, I'm all right. How are you?
And then
like,
the conversation stops.
Conversation dead.
Yeah.
This one message was like, thanks so much for the connection. Except, what's been a highlight of your 2024 so far? And I was like,
Great.
That is a lovely question because it really got me thinking about the good things that have happened in 2024. And then I could write something positive to them, which opened it up. And then I could ask them that question and I got a nice response back
so
through.
It's a nice exchange.
I was like, oh, that's really nice. And
I'm going to steal that.
yeah, exactly. Do. Because it broke the pattern as well. I was in the pattern of just replying to generic messages. It was a bit boring. I'm going to remember that person now because I'm like, oh, they went that little step extra. So think of some questions in 2025 that you can ask your audience in the messages that starts them thinking. Like, have you got any exciting projects that you're going to be working on in 2025? What was your highlight from 2020? Is there anything you learned from 2024 that you might pass on to other people or something? I don't know. Like, think about a question that you can ask that, again, gets people juices flowing and conversations started. So on to action step number 4, and this is a good one, I feel, because we've already led people through a personal branding journey. So essentially, if you've listened to this podcast from day one, you've got some actionable steps and you've grown your personal brand to a certain degree so far. I want you to look at investing then. So step 4, investing in your personal brand and your growth in 2025. So take a look at what you're maybe not doing so well with your personal branding. If there's anything you're not doing so well or you can't do yourself, like for example, I can't take a great photo and brand photos for my website, for my social media, for anything like that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm going to invest in Toby. I'm going to go and get some professional photos and I'm going to do that. Make 2025 the year you invest in that. I can't create a plan for my personal branded content. I can't get a scheduling tool. I can't do all of that myself. Invest in a personal branding agency like Quirk who could help you do that for you. And then also not just money-wise, but investment-wise, we can invest our time, can't we? To learn. Like, if you've just jumped into this podcast now, go back and listen to day one and invest in your time for half an hour every week to learn how to do some of these things. Go and get some personal branding books, read about it, go on YouTube, search personal branding, just soak up all of the information to grow and make yourself better at what you're doing. So I think that's so important. It's something we do as well, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one of the other things we're going to mention here is the collaboration element, isn't it? You know, find those relationships that you've either built or could lead to something really strong in a collaborative sense, you know, because there's the investment, like you say, of time and money, but also, you know, exchange of services or finding some way to collaborate with other businesses that can take that challenging part of personal branding away from you and actually outsource it a little bit can really be beneficial.
And also can help your personal brand grow because like us collaborating and working on this podcast together, it's a time investment, it's that relationship building investment, but this is also helping both of our personal brands grow and also our audience, attracting our right audience to us as well. It's helping everything. So who can you work with? What can you create? What can you do? If you don't like doing videos on your own, is there anyone in your team that you can collaborate on videos with or within your industry and speaking engagements and things? Is there any industry events that are coming up in 2025 that you can try and find out who organises them and try and get in there at a speaking event? Podcasts,
Almost every industry has some sort of range of podcasts. So.
Yeah, and if your industry doesn't, maybe it needs one.
Yeah.
Create your own.
Be the voice.
Be the voice. Get that started. Exactly. So investing in it, definitely. And again, that doesn't necessarily mean money. It can be in some form of another. Invest your energy in your personal brand this year.
So then actionable step number 5, our final one, is be brave. Just go and do it. It's, you know, 2025 is the year to step it up. Let's hit the ground running and get ourselves out there, because by now we've understand the benefits and the advantages of personal branding. All that's left now is to crack on and be brave and start building that confidence with it, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think these last 5 years have been a bit of a whirlwind, crazy time. And I think people retreated a little bit over these last few years. But now I feel like the energy moving into 2025, and I've seen it, it's not just like with the people that I'm hanging out with, but it's the wider audience that I follow as well on social media. Like, everybody's a bit more ready to leave their excuses behind in 2025 and to not believe in themselves anymore, but to believe in themselves more than ever before, and really step it up into this new year. So I feel like there's a shift since the pandemic and retreating and then having to rebuild and redefine ourselves again. We've done all of that now.
Yeah.
We know who we are now. We know who we want. Let's bloody go and get it.
Yeah, and there's always that kind of like, this year's the year, and new year, new me.
Yeah.
And a lot of the habits we try to start the year with do fizzle out. But if there's anything about these 5 actionable steps, it's making it so that you can consistently ride through that. When you feel that little peak start to tail off, we can ride through that, and we can make sure that actually we take advantage of that new year, new me feeling of giving it a go, but actually see it through.
Yeah. And this last one, this is the only one then that is potentially going to trip you up. And it will trip you up at some point this year, is that fear.
Yeah.
The self-inflicted fear that we all have within ourselves. So this is our last barrier, our last hurdle that we've just got to break through. And there is no tool that you can use to do that. There is no I'll collaborate with someone else and I'll be broke. There's nothing else. You have to do this part yourself. You have to step into your greatness. We weren't born to be mediocre and to step back. As children, we had hopes and dreams and we wanted to achieve all of this stuff. But over time, little things got chipped away and knocked down and knocked down.
Yeah.
It's time to cut through all of that and to just go for it and to step into the people that we were always meant to be as well. I think this is a very, very exciting year, and I'm just excited to see how this year progresses as well, and how kind of lots of people's personal brands develop, and to see their confidence grow and their personal growth journeys as well, because personal branding is a personal development journey wrapped up in an online tool. So actually to see people grow into who they were always meant to be, I'm very excited about 2025.
So that's a wrap on this bonus episode to get you started in the new year. So all the best with getting these actionable steps in place. If you have any questions whatsoever about implementing these steps, or any questions about personal branding whatsoever, give Kaz and I a direct message on LinkedIn or Instagram, or join our LinkedIn community page for the Brand You podcast and pop a message on there. And we've been more than happy to help you out. 2025 is about getting you out there. So we'll soon be back with the new series of the Brand You podcast. But until then,
here's to branding you in 2025.